trouble with primitives in any art form.
Talk to me about primitives, would you?
Music is that they come
Talk to me about primitives, would you?
You can trip over them in the streets. Anyone can present himself as a primitive when they might be quite simply untalented, or just lazy, or money-minded, or all three at once.
Welcome to the LeafCast. Oh no! Can you hear me?
Yes.
We are a fully live, as you can tell, talk show based on the epic fantasy series Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. My name is Ryan. Joining me as always is my brother Dan and Jansen the Gleeman. And I'm gonna buck out and try and fix this, Dan. Good luck.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's Sunday. Jansen, how's your weekend been?
It's been good. Uneventful, which is sometimes awesome.
Yeah, it sure is. It's been cold here still. It's going to remain cold for the next, I don't care what the groundhog says. It's going to be cold all February, apparently. So I'm just shivering me timbers. We are going through a series where we're talking about this book called The Wheel of Time and Philosophy. It's edited by Jacob M. Held, and we've been going through chapter by chapter and talking about the different philosophical properties, how they apply to the Wheel of Time. This week, we are talking about a chapter called Eyes Without Pity, ... to have grown up thinking you were a person. And this is by Tim Jones. Tim Jones is a course leader at City College Norwich's Honors BA program in psychology with sociology, where he also teaches access to higher education. And apparently he is working his buns off doing grading and stuff, according to this. So essentially, the basis of this this essay deals with identity, identity and self, but more identity, and the idea that identity is not something that you create at all. Identity is something that is projected or forced upon you through certain powers, through certain labels, through certain societal structures that make it darn near impossible to have your own personal identity. Mm-hmm. Did I sum that up kind of pretty well?
You did. You did. I must say that I think that, I think that they left out some things.
Okay. Well, let's go into what they talked about first, if that's cool. A lot of what they talked about are the Shanshin, Rena, and Egwin, and it deals with not only the book source in Falma, but the episode 6, season 2 of the Amazon's Wheel of Time called Eyes Without Pity.
Yeah.
And this is when Rena tells Egwin, more or less, trying to empathize and saying, quote, how hard it must be to have grown up thinking you were a person only to realize you were a demone instead.
Yeah. Yeah. It, they use, the author talks about, the helplessness, like being helpless is one of the reasons why she was, a demone is deemed that, because of the power source that's holding them captive, their captivity and the sense that the whole population agrees with that this is what's supposed to happen to someone in this position, and they picked a great subject for this chapter, this philosophical debate. They picked a great chapter, and they also picked a great subject, but there are so many more subtle ones in the Wheel of Time that also do exactly this. And I think that for Egwene, and I will get a quick shout out, we saw a great piece of acting in this episode on the show, which I will say, I have to acknowledge. But, the helplessness that Egwene has, the ability for her not to be able to fight back, is just as is more powerful than even what all of those people around her who are in power believe she's supposed to be in.
Right. So the Shanshin are probably the most extreme example of how your identity is tied to the labels and how you are perceived by those in power. Yeah. It is near absolute. In the book, this chapter goes into it. It is near absolute in regards to Egwene herself and Aldemane, in that they can't fake it. It cannot be performative. It has to be sincere. They cannot touch anything that they even perceive as a weapon of some sort. So if I just pick up a pitcher, I'm going to get cramps. I'm going to have horrible pain because my body is forcing me. The collar is forcing me to adapt to the demonic. I can't escape in my head even, because there is no agency within there. And so with the Shanshin, when we're talking about agency and what sort of what power someone has within themselves. It is brutal the way that the Shanshin completely stripped down a demonic.
It is. Now, I also I'm starting to understand or believe, because this might not be true, but I'm sensing a pattern in the Wheel of Time from Robert Jordan about the way that he writes. And I believe that almost any time that someone does not have a choice, it's considered evil to him, right?
Right.
So, in that sense, for, how, this sense of eyes without pity of what you are, can not to yourself, but to all your surroundings and what you are made to be and are forced to be. There are such other examples, like if you look at the Yael with the Carrienan and how they all are considered tree killers. So they're all treated the same way by this entire population of people. And I always thought that was wrong. I thought that was part of the Yael's punishment, what they had Toe for, actually. Because I always thought that was wrong, that they would, treat an entire set of people that way.
Oh, they were just straight out racist.
One person did.
Yeah,
because of what one person did. Exactly. And, they didn't give any of the other Carrienan a choice. And it's like, I always thought, why was that okay? Because the Carrienan, for the most part, through the entire books, were pretty much, they were beaten up on a lot through the entire books. They were never, at the top of their game, or they were always on the low end of the totem pole. They were always, they were always the rich becoming poor. They were always like, they always had some problems.
But within their own little microsystem, they had all kinds of titles. They had all kinds of, their hierarchy was fluid but defined. They were always looking around and more or less trying to, in regards to identity, trying to suss out fake things, right? I mean,
they were, definitely. I believe they were also the proudest, because they had to be, because they were always getting so. The Carrienan are very interesting. Yeah, you're right.
See, so when we take identity, let's take the big one. Let's take Perrin himself, right? So Perrin would see himself as a blacksmith from the Two Rivers.
Yes,
that
this is a good
his
example.
Self-identity, but we can really say that is not correct when the labels that have been thrown on him, Wolf King,
Lord
Magic
Perrin,
Hammer,
Golden Eyes,
the Golden Eyes, Lord Golden Eyes, his journey into Tel'aran'rhiod and such, he has lost the agency of identifying himself by being so damn awesome.
Yeah,
Ryan, you're. I wish I can see you. Talk to me. I can't hear him. So with Perrin, the more he is known, the less personal agency he has to define who he is.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what this article might be kind of saying, but they don't use Perrin at all.
And in retrospect, isn't that how everyone is, to an extent? Like, we all have a base, example in our own heads of who we are, but that is not necessarily what everyone around us sees. For a lot of reasons, even for our own idiosyncrasies, for so many different reasons. But it's like a lot of people see people way differently than how they see themselves. And we get that in what is that? Fires of Heaven, when Soralea tells Egwene, it'll be good for you to see how your friends see you, because And yeah, it's
Well, we know the phrase that everyone is the lead actor in their own life story. They are the main character.
yes.
Does
Yes.
Ryan? Does this challenge?
Can you hear me?
We can. Yeah. Hi.
All right, I'll just
Does-
be a still image talking to you.
Okay.
No problem.
Does this essay kind of challenge the fact that we are the main character in our own story if we do not even have identity outside of what others see us?
No. In fact, it might reinforce it. I think that this idea that like identity is like socially prescribed and there's a feedback loop between yourself and the expectations of others and the benefits you get naturally from fulfilling other people's expectations, which feeds this loop that keeps going, that reifies who you think you are based on the successes you might feel in social contexts. So I love all of that. And I do believe that that's part of the complicated story of like free will, like we talk about. Like we think we're acting of our own accord, but we do not understand how connected we are to everyone around us. We have not like done quote unquote the work that it would take to like identify those forces and re-examine your own like choices and then try and produce a different outcome, which is like what I think, you know, if I were to get more like Carl Jung talks about like the individuated self, like he's talking about the type of person who is, I guess, immune to these things. They are just being themselves regardless of.
Oh, there he went. Well, I'll piggyback off what he said. The essay talks about men and how men challenges the social norms by keeping her hair short. She wears riding breeches instead of a skirt. But then she starts to adapt because she tries to acclimate her appearance and her, I guess, her identity more feminine to appeal to Rand.
Yeah, men is well. See, men has a lot of weird things going on with her though as well, because men is clairvoyant. So when you're someone who's clairvoyant and can, in many ways, see things that are going to happen before they happen, that is a huge, huge, huge motivator for the things that you do in the present.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, as far as with her and Rand, she made it quite clear to all of the readers, to even, you know, some of the other characters in the book. She was ready. She was ready to do whatever Rand wanted and become whoever Rand wanted her to be for her to be with him. She's even said to herself, you know, like she completely was besotted with him.
Yeah. But
Now
I mean, going back to free will, who knows if she had the option?
Yeah,
You know?
that's true too. That's true too. But yeah, she this is a woman who is willing to share him without any kind of rituals or anything. Like Avienda and Elaine found a way to actually make it make sense. Men just said, "Screw it, I'll do whatever he wants."
That's a good point. So, what does that say about men?
Well, it says, I mean,
She's down to clown.
she's down, but it's also she might be the most honest. Like, you know, she
Yeah. It's, in terms of like, yeah, like that thing of like the Jungian individuated self, like she, yeah, like her ability to like be herself, like aside or almost in like defiance of like the normative pressures.
I mean, from book
Like, that's a
2,
special soul, right? Yeah.
you remember she was at the end. She knew Egwene and Rand were still kind of together. She got in bed with him anyway and was like, "I don't care."
Yeah. I don't know if you're complimenting her or insulting her. I don't know.
I'm not doing either. I'm talking. This
Okay.
is more of the human condition for men, than it is for me to. What is it? The time, like I said, and like I tell everyone, I am no judge.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm no
Yeah.
judge. So it's hey, I mean, from the way it was written, Rand liked to watch men walk. Rand liked what men was providing for him. And, as far as, intimacy goes, Rand and men was with Rand more than any of the other two.
By far.
She was his regular.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like
Even
that.
Matt commented on it when he kept seeing them,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad he brought Min in because, like, within the first page, as he was talking about this, Min came to mind, and then all of a sudden, like, ploop, he brings up Min. I was like, oh, that feels great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she definitely is like, who else? Okay, so who else in the Wheel of Time kind of bucks the norms like Min does? I think Brigitte, in my mind, kind of bucks that.
Yeah, you know who else does? Egwene does.
How so?
By completely throwing away her entire heritage and tradition, marrying her property, throwing everything away and going to the other side to, for a reason, with purpose.
Yeah, I would say Elias bucks is someone who bucks kind of things as well. But so let's say that there are these labels within your identity has been identified throughout a society, but you're someone like Elias who doesn't give a fuck about any of that stuff, right? And so when you have, how much power does would we say that Elias has his own identity? Even though he's mostly gone from like the story in everyone else's mind because they don't even know him. He's just
but Elias is also one of the sages in the Wheel of Time because he's also clairvoyant because he has the knowledge of the wolves. He has, insight that a lot of people don't. The wolves were telling him from the moment he met Perrin that they wanted him.
Yeah.
So like he had, he knew he was going to be at the last hunt and he knew that Perrin was special. You never hear of Elias trying to hook up with Gnome in the outside world or anything like that. Perrin's the only one who met both people. So I think even Gnome, after meeting Perrin, Gnome got better. Gnome had purpose. Once Perrin let him out of that cage, Perrin saw him again. He looked better. He felt better. He was in the wolf dream and he was surviving. And not just as a ragged piece of cloth. He was.
Yeah. We're not talking about purpose. We're talking about identity. And so when we talk about identity, sure, Noam had a personal identity, but according to this, personal identity really is false. It's all performative, and what our identity is what we project and what is received. So if my personal identity is I'm a I don't know, let's say someone who's really short, I can't portray that. My identity, even though it's deeply held, it wouldn't be because everyone saw me as someone who's the exact opposite. I'm in fact pretty tall.
Yeah.
So if I were to, so what I believe about myself really doesn't matter according to this essay. The essay determines that it's all how you are viewed as a society is what you is. So what he says, he says, what exactly makes up the substance of a person, and how exactly does the substance come to be formed? We perform, and the characters are attributes that we wish an audience to believe that we possess. Yourself, he says, is a dramatic effect. So, yes, and if we take Egwene may think herself as a innkeeper's daughter, as an Aes Sedai in trainee, as friends of initiating, all these things that she may think of herself. But once she's captured, she doesn't even have a name. She's assigned a different name, and from then on out, she is a demonic. And whatever she thinks she is essentially wrong unless it matches up to what this label is. Right?
Yeah. So Dan, real quick, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think it should be a dichotomy of false and true. I think it should be like an epicenter that you're on the outside, and the more you work towards it, you get to the center. Right. So like on the outside, the effects of the world around you is way more relevant. But I do believe that some people, and I think a lot of that's why monks go into isolation, because they need to like push that aside and get to like some other world where they're not influenced by that. So I think like, instead of saying like, oh, like if you like, because there's like influence of the world around you on your identity, especially those in power positions, which we can't forget to talk about, the whole power dynamics.
Right. And I'm kind of getting to that.
Yeah. So, but I don't think it doesn't mean it's not it's not a false identity. It's just where you're at the moment. It is your identity, but you're unaware. So, right, like, but as you move towards the epicenter of your like true self, like I think you can like mitigate those influences through practice.
So the argument here is broken down to the argument that our self is not innate, but constructed via a social performance. That is that incorrect then?
Yeah. And it's funny that you brought up Elias, because that is like a limitation of this argument. There are those, who eschew society, right, and or like not around society. There's like the Nell like factor, where like you're raised by wolves or something. What is your identity? You had an identity amongst the wolves, right? Like, but what is it now? You know what I mean? So like Elias is a great like kind of like pushing the limits of their arguments, because he is away from society in every way, and he's super fucking seems to know himself, right? Like, so he is formed an identity outside of like, well, maybe the wolves supplant the other being humans. Maybe he's like, okay, well, maybe so maybe it all works with Elias too. It's just like substitute wolves with humans, and it all still works. He needs to like act like in such a way to make the wolves appease, right?
And he's still also attached to the real world too, because he's still bonded to his Aes Sedai.
Yes, but he is free from the power dynamics, which I think are at the heart of this article, which is that
I agree with that.
Those in power can literally assert their power in such a way that you change your behavior, and if it's done to the most like perfection, you will believe you're changing your behavior for your own well-being, but it's really for those in power. That is the ultimate like expression of power, as like detailed in this article, and I love it, and it makes me really think about like, go on.
Keep in mind also, just like, well, unlike the Damani, Elias was able to fight back. He killed people to go to the world for his identity. He killed warders. In fact, he said he had to kill two, I believe, two warders to flee because the Red Aja wanted to gentle him. And once he got into the woods, they couldn't catch him. But he, unlike a Damani, some of the Damani did fight back, I can say, with help. And I guess, Elias fought back and, he to get rid of that other power.
Well, Jetling wouldn't have done anything to him, right?
No, it wouldn't have worked, but he said it made him angry, remember?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, I didn't much like killing warders. That kind of sucked. So let's talk ultimate power. So when we have someone like Elias, who is ostensibly off the grid, is running around with a bunch of wolves. However, there is a larger power dynamic going on. In this case, it is the war of good and evil called Tarn and Guide. So in what agency essentially does he have it through? Well, I guess he still retains self per se, but when we have soldiers, the idea of a soldier a lot of time is to break down self. The idea of self, you can't have your own clothes, you can't have your own haircut, you can't have your own beard. Any of these pamsy-wamsy personal expressions of whatever is nipped in the bud because there is no personal. You are wearing all the same color on person. You're on purpose. You are just a guy in camouflage that you're one of 100 or one of 1,000 or one of 10 that we're sending out. And if you die, then the next guy who's dressed just like you and has your haircut will take your place. The stronger the structural society around you, the far less sense of self you are allowed to have. And Ryan, we were talking about being famous. If someone is super famous, they are pretty much their sense of self, I think, is very hard to hold on to because everywhere you go, you were reflected in people who recognize you. And
absolutely. And you can almost take it historically, like the behavior of kings. Like, I think some kings and royalty or whatever, start off well, but then just the idea that you're consistently being treated in such a way that your character changes, unbeknownst to you. If you're not aware of your own, who you are, then you're going to get swept up and change. So yeah, I think a lot of actors go through weird, wild, swings, kind of Britney Spears, shaving their head, it's just too much for certain people to handle, and I totally understand that.
Well, sometimes it's also for first of all, I want to say that the actors that most people see that are in the Golden Globes and are getting Oscars and all those things, that's 1% of us. So that being said, a lot of times those guys and those people who are in those positions of great power, great wealth, great fame, once it starts going away, they start trying to do things to get it back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like Barry Bonds with PEDs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or Britney Spears shaving her head. So all those cameras can still be there.
Yeah, exactly. It is trying to reclaim power, but it actually isn't then, because then you just have Britney Spears with a shaved head, but everyone still sees Britney Spears and their own version of her, well overwhelms her own
ultimately changing
dances in front of cameras with weird bathing suits and
ultimately changing her identity.
But so this is when you have when someone is arrested, we had the president of a country is now just an inmate number who is wearing the exact same thing as everyone else, eating the exact same food. There is no self for this man anymore. These social structures have closed around him until he is prisoner 1420669 or whatever. And that's it. There is no, whoever Maduro was or thinks he is, it doesn't matter, because the powers that be have removed any sense of identity, correct?
Well, the one he wanted for sure.
Dan,
Well, yeah, any sense of personal identity, because there's no agency. If you have agency, then I guess there's where you have some sort of perception of self. But
Well, I mean, considering,
you're an Aiel, right?
well, the Shanshin went into Tremolking and took it over. We just did the same thing.
bro, a lot of this is like, what we're getting at reminds me of like the unexamined life concept. Like the unexamined life is not worth living, quote Socrates. Like most people are unaware of any of their motivations. Most human beings, when we're talking about how power influences the masses, most human beings are in like a survival mode where they are getting from one task to the next and trying to survive, and to be able to sit and ponder your the source of your ethics or the source of your identity. That is a privileged space to be in. You have to have time to do that, and most people don't have that time. So power is influenced over the masses by like, and when we talk about like identity, I love to think, I was reading this whole article thinking about how this is working right now. What is happening to immigrants? They're being labeled like if you are an illegal immigrant in this country, like your status. That is an albatross you're wearing every day. Your immigration status, and when you have the fucking president and everyone calling you illegal, alien, scum of the earth, blah blah blah, criminals, how is that not impacting just the person themselves who just was like, oh shit, I don't know, I just wanted to feel safe every day, and I thought America would help me with that, and all of a sudden I'm being called this and that. We're seeing the psychology of labeling. And it's funny, there's a philosopher, a labeling philosopher he quoted in here, and I thought that was really fascinating. I want to look that guy up because I you know what I mean? Like
that guy lived to be 95.
Yeah, ever since the fucking printing press, the psychology and philosophy of labeling has been pronounced, right? And once you're able to spread this, it used to just be word of mouth. Now you can just fucking in South Korea, they're sending balloons with pamphlets to North Korea, being like, oh, you guys are in a cult. All of that shit is all very relevant and fun to think about. But in this article, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I had a lot to say.
Labeling itself though isn't necessarily limited to the printed word. And so let's say you have the guy, oh, that's Mickey, he's the town drunk. Oh, that's Sally, she's the whore.
No, these are Copland talk. Right, like Copland talk, right? Is the perfect example. There's,
but if everyone believes it, then where is Sally and Bob's or whoever? Is their self reflected in society? It's as the town drunk. It's they have that's their label, and she's a whore, and that's just what it is.
And so in this article, another criticism I have is he kind of talks about okay, if you're in a system that's controlling you as much as Egwin was being controlled by the Shanshan, the outlet would be the one final choice, and he kept talking about self-violence, and I thought wow, that's such a weird way to go. I have I believe in transcendence. I believe in human transcendence, and this guy did not seem to believe in that. I believe that. Wait, hold on. Let me just go a little bit here. There's a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and he was a Nazi concentration camp survivor, and he was a Freudian psychologist, and he was in these situations, and he was like developing his whole theory, what he called logotherapy, later on after he got out, but it was all based on his experiences in the camp. And he said that those that survived had meaning. They had a source of meaning that like transcended their suffering, gave them like, and he broke it all down to all these very compelling stories. But like, I believe in that. Like I believe that there are demone who are still like pretending that they love killing and all this stuff, but inside there, like, there's a kernel of them saying, "No, fuck you. I'm still gonna get out of this, and I'm still gonna like, live my life." And I think that's like the power of humanity to overcome oppression. Like, we have it within ourselves to overcome like social pressures. We have it within ourselves as a society to overcome like, federal encroachment of ice ages. We have it within ourselves, and we all have this power, regardless of the power outside of us. We exude power. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm very positive about this.
We should remember, though, we're talking about the Shanshan, and so there is no hope. They do bring up self-harm in a way that shows that a demonic cannot. It doesn't even have that option.
They won't even allow that. No, you're right. But also, I want to remind, like, what about Moraine? Fucking falling through the fucking portal, getting her emotions sucked from her for fucking how long? We don't even know what time is like in that place. Maybe it was longer for her than it was in the books, and she suffered and suffered and suffered, and still came out herself, and was an effective Moraine to help Rand in the end. So like, this book doesn't get into all that. It was very like cursory. I loved it, but I also found like flaws, because I think humans, that's the magic of humans. Like, I don't believe in magic, but I believe in shit like that, because I see it all over the place. There's Moraine coming back and being like, fuck yeah, they sucked my
we aren't in a totalitarian state where, and what I was thinking about actually was Mangione, and I'm like, all right, half the people see him as someone that brutally murdered a father, and another half see him as like a vigilante who is making a statement on the banking system and society in general. And yet his identity is as inmate 4696969420 or whatever it is, and that is who it is.
Well, that's also because, well, I guess this is opinion, but it's also what he did is kind of evil, according to Robert Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing, and I'm not like a religious person or anything, but like, all death is a tragedy, and that's not like the Bible or anything like that. That's actually Shakespeare. So it's just true.
All right. No, I mean, right, Jansen, though, I mean, how many times should Rand have killed, like he had like land fear, like he could have like murdered several women who went on and did a lot of bad things, and you could be like, oh, like, your inability to murder that fucking being caused, it's like kind of the whole baby Hitler. If you have baby Hitler in your hands,
yeah, but you can't blame yourself for others' choices, because he did if Rand had the possibility, he had the opportunity to kill someone, and he gave them grace, and decided not to, because of his choices, his philosophy, because he felt that if he would have done that, he would have damaged himself at the time.
No, and and like, as I was saying it, I was like, all right, like, if he made X or Y decision early on in the books, he would not have been Bodhi's, like, spiritually enlightened Rand at the end. Like, so I get it. Like, so the losses that continue to happen, even if 50,000 people died because he wouldn't kill this one person, if that's what he needed to do to save all of humanity, it's, those are all like calculated losses.
Can we say that they won because the 3 Tavern decided not to fight what their selves actually were, what their identity is.
Ooh, that's a good point. Ooh.
And these are all things that are projected upon them. Matt did not want to be the general of battles. Perrin did not want to be Lord Golden Eyes. Rand certainly didn't want to be the savior. But by accepting that they have no true identity within themselves, but must kind of go with the identity that has been put upon them. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with this article. I'm trying to describe and defend it through like its things, but I mean, is that something that we could say that they actually had to give up their sense of self in order to succeed within the last battle?
But it was still a choice, though. They didn't have to do it.
No, I mean, Dan,
everything would have gone to shit, but they didn't have to do it.
I don't know why you're talking about these guys. In the end, they were the power players, right? Like in the end,
but there was a power above them. Even
so, but also like
Tavernus, the pattern itself. So, I mean, Matt was continually fighting his position. His sense of self did not include him being the general of the battles of the armies of the light. That wasn't his identity at all. That wasn't his self, but that was everyone else's self, including the pattern. And he.
I mean, don't you find it funny that Matt, who denied being a lord the whole time, was pretty much the only character in the entire book that lived like one the entire book? You know.
Oh yeah. No. He had the lowest sense of self, and that it's funny when earlier on when I left and I came back, Jansen, you were talking about how like the people like how they see themselves and how the world sees them are sometimes very different, and like I find that like those types of people I inherently distrust. Like I see it all the time. People who claim to be one thing, but in like all regard, but in all regards, like anyone like watching a film of this person acting in one way, they'd all say the opposite. So I find like the people I like to be around me are those that I think that gap is narrowed as much as possible, right?
Well, also, you know, even with you two guys, if you know meeting you two guys, if you didn't know you in person, not everybody sees the world from Akeem Olajuwon's stature.
Okay,
you're right.
Go on.
You're right.
And you know, it's like if you guys both walked into any diner and you both had bandanas on and black leather jackets, people are going to think one way.
Yeah. And we've at some point historically would have both been able to dunk on you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah. We're prolific dunkers. No, I know. I hear you.
So yeah, people. I mean, that's every MP, and that comes from so many things like preconceived notions. Again, the Tinkers. When Egwene first met Elias, the first thing she said to him is, "Master Matura, do we really want to camp close to them? Bella will be stolen." And he's like, "Oh yeah, they steal everything, right? You know, like because she had known her whole life. Tinkers are all thieves, but they really weren't. You know, and you know, it took for people in the books a lot of times to actually meet people to understand that they were different.
That's a very fascinating example of the Tinkers. Like the world outside of them had an impression of them, but they were solid within themselves because why? They were outside of the world. They were like they isolate themselves. They're like we're gonna do our own thing. We don't need that bullshit. But if you think about like the game of houses and like you know and like in like societies where like everyone is like pushing together and trying to like influence and gain whatever, like the rules are very very strict and very very like they really dominate the discourse. like all these rules of power. So that's funny you brought up the Tinkers, because I was like, yeah, they've been doing their own thing. How are they able to do that? Oh, they're not in the cities. They're not hearing it.
Right. I mean, and Ryan, you're right. So it's if you are within your own little enclave, then there is a separation from society, and therefore from labels themselves affecting you. The labels are there. People, in their minds, Tinkers do steal children. They do steal Bellas. They are bad, horrible people. And by staying outside of it, they aren't. But this is what the stereotype is, and they have to exist, I guess, within that. But the further up it goes, the more so it comes. So let me shift just a tiny bit. So when we're talking about like identity and self, eventually the self is always a reflection of the outside when it comes to tight structure. And so another thing that I was thinking about is the stupid thing that they're making gender. You have to mark a gender on your passport, and this is something that is a power beyond our control, that is throwing a label onto something that doesn't matter, but yet whatever your personal identity is based on them, the ones that are like in control, that you have to mark A or B. And so no matter how fluid you personally are within your life, within your feelings, within everything, when it comes to a prison, when it comes to armies now, when it comes to these things, like it is no, what are you reflected of to me as the one in control, going back to the Sean, so it's all this,
and that's a very good point, Dan.
The way less agency, and therefore the less sense of self you are allowed.
True.
Dan, that's a very good point. I love you bringing up gender and how, like, especially this current administration is treating it like you're like it's almost like their word, whatever they call it, is like has more power and weight than the individuals who are like claiming this or that. It's all of a sudden like on high, no more. And that and they're like literally erasing like a percentage of the population's a pursuit of their own identity. And that type of abuse and like what, if anything, from this article, it shows that if you're the victim of this type of like influence, the damage is palpable, and like and you have to like actively push against it, or else you're gonna have like identity issues, which is not fair. Like you're working this shit out, and all of a sudden like your own government's like denying your own fucking pronouns. That's mind-blowing in terms of like, I'm trying to actively, as I'm talking about, I'm trying to empathize with someone who's like suffering from that. I can't effectively, but I can only imagine that it sucks.
Right. But when these injustices have the full force of a federal government behind it, ICE, like these things, it's the majority of the people are not happy with what's going on, and yet it doesn't matter because they're just considered domestic terrorists, and that is their self then based on the.
So how about this? So this is what I think is fun to talk about. They break down power in this article as like the ability to change people's behavior and change their outlook. What I'm seeing right now is an oppressive force that is like forcibly changing behavior. They have ability,
and by outlook as well. It doesn't mean that the outlook is something that they want. It's like if you put someone on a path and they have to go, and it's got that same outlook as come.
Yeah,
This-
yeah.
The essay
This is-
states, quote, the deepest level of power involves having someone act according to your own interests while fully believing that they are acting according to their own.
Yeah. So we could like look at like MAGA as people voting against their interests and like believing that they're like doing it in their own interests. The other way would look at liberals being like, oh, look at you not voting your stuff in, blah blah blah. But like what we're fuck, I lost my train of thought. All right, go on, Dan. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I mean, so yeah, it is. So this is indoctrination, right? This is what we're raised into. We do things that we think are in our own interest. We dress as men. We do these things. This is what we've been indoctrinated in, and we think that it's in our own best interest when it's actually in society's our own best interest. Who knows? I mean, I'm trying to dress as I speak, right? That is, but within our fucking our own best interest is get a haircut every 2 weeks and shave and wear a tie to work and stuff. These aren't in our own best interests. These are us pretending to be respectable. These are us conforming to identity that is less. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know,
right?
Dan. Like, let me tell you. So no, yeah. So I'm gonna piggyback off of that. So like, what's happening now, though, and in this article, he even talks about like, it doesn't like there's failed attempts. Like, there's been many attempts of people trying to change their identity that does not work. And I think what's happening right now, no one who's like trans is like, oh no, I'm not trans because the government doesn't agree with it. It's not changing one thing. It might change their behavior in that they might be like, oh no, if I'm going to go to jail, I'll fucking XYZ, but it's not changing their core identity. And I think that's what we're seeing is like a ridiculous, like comical clown show of power assertions against the peoples who are immune to this shit. Like, so like, just because the government's like trying to like erase trans, I don't think it's ever gonna work. Once this administration's gone, they're all coming back out. We're fucking partying and fucking transing it up. So like, it's hard to like I think we have to go almost more historical to think about like real movements that were like subjugating people to the point where they actually don't know who they are anymore. So, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, I mean, wouldn't we consider this to be a form of enlightenment, to release self, to release the image that we are creating our own identity?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that like the goal? Kind of.
I mean, there's also the risk of like creating an identity in opposition to the power, which is still not freedom. If all of your choices like, I'm gonna only do what is gonna upset, the government, then you're not fully like participating in the freedom of choice that we all should have. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's another part of identity. It's like, if you're like, I don't like this fucking regime, I'm gonna push against it, then all of a sudden that becomes who you are. It's still the same process of like expectation, your choices, how it reflects on, and then your identity is still not your own in a way. Does that make sense?
Right. I mean, who cares what Jeffrey Epstein thought of himself? His identity is established by the people, correct?
Well, I mean,
disgraced pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. That is all we say.
I mean, if you decide to rob somebody so you can live a rich lifestyle in Beverly Hills and you get caught, get sent to jail, you've also created your own identity that you didn't want, but
Right.
you're still in a cell.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
I mean, so yeah, and again, the stronger the structure, so is self then really just a figment of our imagination, and we honestly do not have ultimate control over our own identities and selves?
I think okay, great
I
question.
don't think the pattern cares. I think it's a human thing.
Yeah, it is, but so it's not worthwhile like examining it. I think it's still a great question. Is this self? So yeah, like.
Well, let me expand. Jansen is an actor. Jansen expresses many different characters, and the book actually describes dramatic performances as being a simile to life itself. You do these things each and every day, and you slip into whatever they tell you to do, and you do it, and you do it well. You convince us that you're a gay singer on a stage with 8-inch boot heels, and like this is what you do, and for that time, that is who you are. And when we see you on that stage or on the screen, that is who you are, regardless of what you think. If you're like, well, I'm actually a Harvard trained theologian, who gives a hell? Because you're on stage doing this.
Yeah, I saw a interview with Ben Affleck actually, and he was asked, "How do you make this look real?" And he said, and I understood it immediately when he said it. He's like, "You have to believe that you're in that situation, in that spot, in that place, and it's you have to make yourself. You have to believe."
I imagine Madeline Madsen, when she was going through those pretty emotional, retching scenes, was herself in that spot emotionally where she had no agency and control whatsoever.
Yeah, I wonder what discipline she was.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Dan, check this. I love this train of thought. Like, so an actor embodies an identity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more accurate they do it, then we as viewers can like lose ourselves in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
The more believable, not accurate, believable. Because they can
also believable, correct? If it fits our label, But if they don't do it, then we like say they suck.
So, but Dan. So what this like argues this person's point in the article, like.
Mm-hmm.
It is socially prescribed. The more Jansen can tap into what he thinks 1 million people will think a jealous lover will look like, or 1 million, you know what I mean? Like he has to exuberate the zeitgeist, right? Like he's like diving into the zeitgeist of all of our like collective unconscious expectations and viewpoints, and again, like, and if it doesn't work, we all go boo, but if it works, we go yay.
That's the secret, Ryan. I don't have to make 1 million people do anything and believe anything, just one. Yourself.
Yeah, but it is still a construct.
Absolutely.
And this is
totally
what the whole thing is. Like, yeah. And I'm comfortable saying that not only like you're acting like persona, but your own identity is a construct. Dan's identity is a construct. My identity is a construct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah. And the fact that our identities are constructed means we have to be more aware of how we are influenced by people who want to gain from us, power systems, social media companies, like the police state, all of these things. Like we can't just rely on us like, oh, I know myself. No, like I think the takeaway from this whole discussion is that, like, yes, like if our sense of self is constructed, then we need to be aware of the input.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan,
Yeah,
you
I
make
agree.
a good point. We think that we are alone in our thoughts and driving in our car, but there are cameras taking pictures of who's driving and your license plate and make and
Yeah.
model and how fast you're going, and these things are existing. They're everywhere. They're
All of it.
and while we think that we are alone, our identity might even be tied to this. At that point, we are a lone self with no observers, being ourselves, and yet the big brother is always kind of there. And it's getting more and more and more and more, as you say, Ryan. The more technology this is what information now is just personal. Not like, what can I get? What can I find out about Jansen? What can I find out about him? Where's he go? He shops at Trader Joe's. He uses that card. We see that he gets quinoa every 2 weeks. All right, we're gonna send him some fucking coupons and have him try our quinoa. Shit like that. Like,
Instagram ads about quinoa. I get them all the time.
Do we have control of that? Or are we how subliminal?
Well, there is a button on the phone that says you can, but I don't know.
And I addressed it. I could positive take. Like, I do believe we are able to transcend this. I think it's like a practice. If it's not a religious practice, it's a discipline practice. If it's not discipline practice, like, it's some sort of practice where you are like working towards understanding, like, how what you consume, who you're around, like your historical like relationships have influenced who you are at this moment, and you make choices to be a better person. I think that's all great and happens all the time. And I think there are like historical figures that buck the system in ways that are just fucking so badass. The most punk rock shit happens in history. I'm a punker. I love fighting the man, and there's been people who are just like, fucking like there are Rosa Parks everywhere.
Hi, Turkey Sleepy.
It's great. It's all very, very, very like thrilling and inspiring, and like helps me get along. But like, everyone,
but what we're seeing also, Ryan, is change. Real change exists is when you change the structure that is potentially oppressing, right? And that's why all these protests are out there, and ICE has apparently started changing their tactics in theory, at least in Minneapolis. But the protest the power that is above you in order to change the perception of what you are. Instead of being citizens, you're being seen as domestic terrorists or agitators or professional protesters or whatever it is. It's just people checking out their community. But until the powers agree with that assessment, then they are terrorists and etc., because this is how they're being treated.
Yeah.
So how they feel about themselves doesn't truly matter on the big scale. No. Because until the powers recognize yourself just shouting at the void, right?
Yeah, because when the state can just eliminate yourself, literally kill you, and you're not even a self anymore, right? There's no sense of self. You're fucking dead. Yeah, like all of that becomes like pedantry, right? You're just so. Yeah, great point, Dan.
Thanks.
Well, it's getting a little late, guys.
Yeah. Well,
this was an awesome conversation.
Well, we'll be back next week, continuing to go through the Wheel of Time and Philosophy. We'll be on chapter 10. It is called Glimpsing the Pattern and Salvaging a Semblance of Choice.
I love that.
This might be right up our damn alley, guys.
Well, we're going to be talking about Tamal Thor for sure.
Yeah. I hope, I hope you subscribe to our show. That was a glorious looking penis.
I didn't see it.
No, yeah, it's over there. This has been The Way of the Leaf. I am Ryan's brother Dan. Ryan had to bounce. This is Jansen the Gleeman. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, we'll see you next week. And until then, run for your lives. This is The Way of the Leaf.
All right, Dan, end the stream. Can you end the stream?
Yep, and stream.
I can't.